big lessons we've learned in this war is that we've got to learn how to go it by ourselves. And we're preparing and planning that for the future, Brandon, militarily, economically, even things like food. And by the way, our deal with Somaliland, just today I read that Somaliland have an incredible amount of natural resources, food, all kinds of chemicals and minerals and things under the ground. And they're saying Israel needs it, and we're here to make trade. So there's another avenue where we can learn to, in a way, wean ourselves off being so dependent on the United States. And like I quoted earlier, Bibi said, if America aren't going to attack Iran, then we may have to go it ourselves.
Well, so, you better wean yourself off us, because the Bible says that all the nations of the world will turn against Israel. And the last time I checked, all means the United States as well.
Yeah, I know. It's not a nice thought, but this is where we're coming to that place where we're going to have to. And Bibi, even Donald Trump said recently in his relationship with Bibi, he said he's a tough player. He's a tough guy. And so he respects Bibi, and obviously Bibi's no pushover. He's not he's not a yes man. And I think we've seen a change in Bibi through this war. Trump has saved Bibi's political career a number of times. He's like a cat with many lives, and Trump has saved his political career big time. But on the other hand, Bibi has stood up. He's stepped up.
Well, he needs to. And by the way, sometimes people get saved in order to get the best deal and get Bibi to agree to let you guys take the Gaza and develop for a bunch of fat cats. So sometimes you're being saved so you can turn on be used. Be careful of that. LightToTheNationsMinistry.com, brought to you by our foundation, WorldviewFoundation.com. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff operations officer, assisted the national security team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Netflix is on the verge of becoming the most powerful political and ideological messaging apparatus in human history. They're looking for total control.
They want to get even bigger and buy Warner Brothers.
Through their propaganda efforts, they want you to favorably view the deep state as never doing anything wrong. This is more powerful than control of your children's textbooks. It's more powerful than control of the newspapers.
I'm not really rooting for the Netflix deal, I have to be honest.
Many Americans will be surprised to hear that the federal government collaborates so closely with Netflix.
Susan Rice is on the board of Netflix.
And then Susan Rice went back into the Biden administration. Then she came back to Netflix.
They want to socially engineer how you view the government. Imagine for a moment that your government wants to target you because of who you are, what you believe, and what you stand for. The Oversight Project's report is a first of its kind, how Netflix actually operates with the federal government.
FBI agents fabricating evidence, altering evidence.
Can you truly receive a fair trial? You don't stand a chance. And that is the whole point.
Because once the feds get one taste of that kind of power, it can be weaponized against anyone.
We at the Oversight Project are not going to let this stand. We're here to fight for you.
I think the Trump administration should do everything to stop this merger from happening.
Check out our report at itsyourgov.org.
Welcome back to Whistleblower Wednesday, folks. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. While we are keeping watch on weaponized government, law, the press, and now the entertainment industry. You can't be surprised, right? Of course, the entertainment industry is weaponized against traditional America, but exactly how much is the big question. When we consider this statement in the context of a weaponized government and legal system being used against us, the future seems bleak, but it's really not. It's not, because we, the people, still have the power to organize and act. That's why the good folks at the Oversight Project, whose video clip you just saw, are always standing watch for us and have recently released this report warning us about Netflix's extremely close relationship with agencies in the government like the FBI and the other intelligence agencies. Oversight Project's mission states that America was founded on the principle that in order to preserve freedom, government should be responsible, accountable, and transparent to its citizens. The Oversight Project works to expose and root out corruption in our government and among elected officials and in our most influential organizations to ensure power resides with the American people. Americans deserve a government free of fraud, waste, and abuse where they can be safe from the partisan weaponization of its power. Americans have a right to rein in the abuses and corruption of the powerful because it's your government. That's why their Twitter handle, X handle, says that. It's your government. And they're helping us get the job done. Mike Howell is my guest today, and he's talking with us today about this FedFlix report, you heard me right, and their other activities. Mike's the president of the Oversight Project. He has senior experience from different oversight positions in the executive branch on Capitol Hill and in representing private parties in oversight and investigation matters. He's been on the War Room, on Real America's Voice many times. You see him on other networks. And he is a key member of a group that I'm a part of now, Weaponization Watch, and that organization is very, very thankful for his work. Mike, welcome to the Rob Maness Show.
Hey, Colonel, always great to be with you.
It's good to see you, sir. Hope y'all are warm up there.
I mean, DC, man, what a metaphor. They still can't clean up the streets or the sidewalks,
Yeah.
and this place wants to be a state. No, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get right to it. Great little trailer there for the cold opening of the show, Mike. What were the circumstances that got you focused on Netflix specifically? Because in general, I think most of us normies know that the entertainment industry is skewed against us at this point.
Yeah, so at the core, the Oversight Project is a collection of people with, a lot of experience, either the FBI, intelligence community, military, ICE, and attorneys, and who've played in this space for a while. And we understand radical and extremist power, not just to be held by government agencies at all times, but by some of the institutions they co-opt. And one of them, obviously, is entertainment. There's obviously many, many more, unfortunately. And so, a lot of Americans out there just want to focus in on the government network and kind of, that's well and good. But Obama had a theory of government he called governing without government, where, he couldn't get his things through Congress, he couldn't get them through the regulatory state. And so he famously said, I have a pen and I have a phone, and I'm going to use the left-wing power I have that way. And so, we need to catch up to speed with this is how the world is run. And we, have long focused on Netflix as a purveyor, not of just extreme ideological bias, but have understood that it has cooperated at times with federal government entities, and really powerful ones, such as the FBI or the intelligence community or the now Department of War. And so that led to this report, and I'm excited. And it takes a lot of time to really break it down and explain it. But at its fundamental level, we don't think that these agencies need a public relations team. We don't think that they should be engaged in domestic propaganda and the shaping of it. And Netflix is the end point for a lot of that propaganda, whether it is, explicitly Netflix produced, or if it is Netflix, advertised on there, animated, or ends up on the other end of your remote control. It is the clearinghouse for propaganda, and on the verge of this massive merger where Netflix wants to grow and acquire the brands and like iconography of other institutions like Warner Brothers. We're sounding the alarm that this is more of a political and ideological exercise than an entertainment one, and so we don't want to see it happen.
Yeah, this is not just so folks understand. Look, I was in the military for 32 years, and I was really angry when the Air Force refused to cooperate with the movie industry. And then the movie Top Gun, where the Navy did cooperate with them, came out, and we got smoked, as they say, completely, and still are getting it because of Top Gun. This is not that. This is about these agencies, including the War Department, Service Department, public affairs teams, not just cooperating with them, but inserting propaganda into the whatever the output is, whatever the product is, and correct me if I'm wrong, having veto authority over anything that wants to be said. And Netflix does a lot of documentaries, right, Mike? So you're counting on a documentary to be, of course, there's artistic license, but to be factual and tell you the truth, right? So that's what this is about, is where these agencies have so much power in an organization like Netflix, is that they can actually change the narrative and insist that some truth not be put out. Is that right?
Yep. That's exactly right. And I think we need to set a bit of a historical foundation. You know, when you talk about Top Gun, it's like, all right, I get why, from your perspective, you know, the Navy, you know, got away and the Air Force didn't. But like, that's like peacetime and okay stuff. Like, we can kind of quibble and almost joke about that level of, you know, government shaping of stuff. But we need to go back in time a little bit. Domestic propaganda is old as, you know, ancient Greece. Governments have sought to shape, you know, their relationships and coverage via the press and entertainment to get narratives favorable to government. So in certain times in American history, that has been done for, you know, obviously patriotic purposes. You know, in the Cold War, going after the communists, or Top Gun, you want to drive up military recruitment. And so, like, there are types and degrees of this. And it's really the origin story of the FBI. Like, J. Edgar Hoover, when he stood up the FBI, was really upset with the glamorization of gangsterism in America. A lot of people, you know, saw the clips of the mafiosos and such and thought they were kind of cool. And so he really endeavored to reach out to Hollywood and elsewhere at the foundational stages of the FBI to promote the FBI brand, the G-men, the good guys, you know, with the guy going after the bad guys. And so that's how it all began. And then over the course of history, and with kind of the breakdown in America and you know, culture, society, and shared visions of who the good guys and bad guys are, the FBI became aware of its like unique brand, and that brand can never be questioned. And so the FBI, we uncovered documents that speak to this, and we include them in our report called FedFlix, about how it's like the FBI's long form team is what it's called, at the Office of Public Affairs, you know, works with publishers and other, you know, artistic houses, if you will, to basically make sure the FBI always has a positive image. And look, I can get why in some theories that's okay, but here's where it gets hairy. When the FBI becomes weaponized, that's a problem. When they pick one side in the ideological dispute, which they have in recent history, and then you start to degrade the civil liberties of Americans who need to go in front of a jury of their peers, who now have consumed decades of federal government propaganda that has shaped them to think the FBI is never wrong. They can do no wrong. They are the good guys, and you must never doubt them. How can you get a fair trial in that situation? And that's what we're calling out.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you went back to that. But you didn't use an operation name that I thought you were going to throw in there, so I'm going to ask you about that. Tulsi Gabbard, the current director of national intelligence, revealed last summer, I think it was, that this operation called Mockingbird, that was a CIA domestic propaganda operation run by the CIA, is still ongoing. Those types of operations are still ongoing, even though the Cold War was over. That's where Mockingbird was created to help win, right?
That's right. So in the 1970s, there was a huge committee set up by Congress called the Church Committee to look at abuses inside the intelligence community. And one of the things they uncovered was called Operation Mockingbird. And that was one such of a larger panoply of operations that the IC ran against Americans. They basically had people on agency payroll, propagandists, at all of the major kind of studios, news networks, magazines, etc. And so the CIA was directly kind of manipulating the American conversation. DNI Gabbard recently told Benny Johnson that those types of activities still are ongoing and have never ended. And I think like once you start looking at it through that lens, you can understand a lot of this stuff that happened during COVID, the BLM riots, and how they seek to use those powers to influence not just like global relations of USA versus others, but domestic understanding of evolving political situations. And so,
Yeah.
like, that's obviously wrong, and it was supposed to end, and she confirmed that it didn't. And that's the kind of the vein that FedFlix, the report, is really in, is wake up, people. When you turn on Netflix to chill, like, you're going to get some amount of propaganda layered into the entertainment, and it's from people that hate you, frankly.
Yeah, and it's more than propaganda, though, Mike. And we're going to carry this into the next segment to go into a little more detail on it. But Netflix has gone beyond cooperation and gone into collusion with, in many instances. And we'll just lay it out here. There's a company called One Taste that its leaders have been prosecuted. I think two of the ladies are in prison right now, and Weaponization Watch, of which we're both work with and within, are supporting them. But Netflix had a key role, I think, in some of the evidence being portrayed either falsely or covered up, and those kind of things. And that's way beyond just cooperation or letting an organization like the FBI give advice to a documentary or a movie and shaping the narrative. That gets into the actual weaponization of the legal system, the government itself. It enables the nefarious bad actors that are embedded in those government agencies to continue their role, right? We got to take a break in about a minute, but I want the audience to be thinking about that as we go into it. But I think I'm on to the story, right, Mike?
That's absolutely right. It's not just like the final content that comes out. It's leveraging a relationship between the FBI and Netflix during an investigation because the FBI understands the power that Netflix has. And that's what the One Taste case is ultimately about. It's a really egregious example. And I know it'll confuse a lot of Americans when they look at the fact pattern, but what I'd like to isolate is the principle of the matter, that a government powerful enough to do this to one group, which you may not share their views or practices, they're powerful enough to do it to you too. And that's what we really get into.
That's exactly right. And we'll get more into that after this break with the president of the Oversight Project, Mike Howell.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
On June 20th, 2020, on its X page, Netflix posted a video titled, quote, "To my white friends, guilt, shame, embarrassment," end quote, and saying, quote, "We need to do everything in our power to amplify that message." Do you stand by that statement?
I have no recall of that statement at all.
Okay, I just read it to you. Do you have an opinion about it?
I don't have any idea what context it's in or anything. It
Okay,
sounds,
in the
sounds
wake
like a
of
social media.
in the wake of the George Floyd riots on June 20th, Netflix posted on its page, To my white friends, guilt, shame, embarrassment. What does that mean?
I think that is an uncharacteristic post that I'm deeply regret if that got posted that way.
Okay, well, it did. Netflix also said on May 30th, to be silent is to be complicit. I don't, okay. I was just reading you some things that Netflix posted at the time. So you don't stand by that statement then?
As I said, sir, we have no political agenda. Posting something like that would be quite political, but
right. I would agree.
Yes,
I would agree
and I would say, I hope that wouldn't happen again.
Okay. Netflix also said on June 10th, 2020, that to implement the BLM, the Black Lives Matter agenda, Netflix understood, quote, that our commitment to true systemic change will take time. Do you still think that takes time? Are you still actively engaged in this effort?
Again, so we're not engaged in political efforts like that.
Okay. Any longer? You're not. You were, but you're not now.
I can't think of a period of time.
Okay.
I think of the time you're talking about was quite a volatile time for many companies.
I think a lot of people said things they regret then. I'm just trying to figure out if they actually regret it or not.
A lot of people said things they regret then. And remember, what Senator Schmidt was talking about there was over 6 years ago. So over half a decade ago. And that was the CEO of Netflix not too long ago before a Senate committee trying to answer those questions. A lot of people said things they regret. But the problem with Netflix and other entertainment organizations is that they are acting and continuing to act on political philosophies. And I know what he said there. We don't have a political stance on anything, but it exudes and oozes out of every inch of film, if you want to call it that comes across your screen from a lot of the things that they produce organically. And my guest today is Mike Howell, the president of the Oversight Project. And the OP just released a report called FedFlix and its relationship, Netflix's relationship with all these government agencies, including the FBI. And Mike, before the break, we broached the subject of the One Taste criminal case. And Netflix did a documentary on them that was very negative. And it's my understanding that FBI agencies actually colluded with the producers on that particular documentary. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what's being alleged here and bears out in the court records. Is there is interaction between the FBI and then one of the people that were featured in the documentary as it related to like journal evidence and whether that was manipulated and how it came out. And like to understand that, you have to understand like the context of what was happening at that time. It was during the Me Too hysteria and where there was a big political incentive for government actors, to go get a scalp that fit in the narrative lane of, Me Too and protecting women. And here you have a women-run company that was being accused unfairly, in my book, of, like an absurd, frankly, theory of forced labor by virtue of a voluntary participation in their practice group. And the FBI, had a relationship with one of the witnesses, was working with Netflix. And I know that's a lot to unpack, but let me put it to you another way that's more simple here is the biggest, up and coming genre of the last decade has been true crime, right? Like whether it's podcasts or TV shows, there is a race to get content out in the entertainment context on a developing case. And when you have that element of speed and the power that media can do to shape a narrative of the public as to like the people you ultimately want to prosecute, you can see how an FBI agent would see a major advantage in painting these people awfully and unfairly in the process of an investigation. It makes it more likely they can get a conviction. And that's what it looks like happened here. And I think it's, there's a lot of things wrong with that case. But as it relates to FedFlix, I mean, the idea that the FBI could in any way, shape, or form malign somebody like that in the media, in quote unquote entertainment, also working with people as like discredited as Lena Dunham on the other side, just boggles the mind, even from my like very frankly like conservative right-wing perspective of just the basic fundamentals of rule of law and the power of the state here. And that's ultimately what this looks like to me. And I think it's beyond unseemly. It sets awful precedent for a lot of reasons. And I, for one, don't want to be on the receiving end of that in a Gavin Newsom administration or something. I know you don't, but I also don't
Yeah.
want it for people whose lifestyles I don't necessarily disagree with. That's not how we can operate a country.
Yeah, I mean, and this flows over to like you alluded to. It flows over to all kinds of views and perspectives. And look, I'm a law and order guy. I supervised a huge law and order law enforcement operation in my last job in the Air Force, and 2 jobs before that too. Over 400 people doing law enforcement. You're not going to find a bigger advocate for enforcing the law, but enforcing it fairly and equally. And not using the vast powers that government officials have via their reach in communications, the endless funding that we, the people, give them access to. I mean, it's endless. It's a fight that isn't a fight. Really, it's just a boot coming down on the citizen that has to face this kind of thing. That's why I think it's important to publicize your report and to get people, the citizens especially, to dig deeper into this and to be talking about it with their elected officials, especially but just the agents colluding with the producer on this thing. I mean, I read that that they may have worked with the prosecutors may have worked with Netflix to suppress evidence for the trial. Did I understand
No,
that correctly?
it's a huge mess. Yes, there's a lot of that flying around in the legal papers that have been filed, and unfortunately, it looks like the judge overseeing the case didn't even give it any credence, and it's up in that place up in New York that we take so many issues with in those districts, and it doesn't look like a fair trial to me. I think that the sentences that came out are absurd, and also there's mention in terms of like uh, let me back up just for 1 minute here. Like, you should be charged for the crime that the government accuses you for, right? And if convicted,
Right.
punished for that. Of course,
Yeah.
basic 101 principle. Here, there was like uncharged conduct that after they were convicted for in that whole mess where there's a cooperation between the government and Netflix, they came in on top and said, oh, all that other stuff we didn't charge you for, here we're going to put that in our sentencing recommendation. So we want you punished for things that you weren't even charged for because they didn't want to get into the mess of all of that and have like some of this evidence come out to light. And that to me is just fundamentally unfair. And it is so Orwellian, and the legal system moves way too slow at times and way too unfairly that people are in prison right now for it, and who should not be in prison. And I know, like President Trump's team has taken an aggressive view of pardons, and I know that this is one that's on the list that a lot of people are pushing forward. And I think this should be given consideration, particularly in light of the president's commitment to de-weaponize the FBI, also to do so in a way that is ideologically neutral. Frankly, obviously, I have an impassioned defense for those who were harmed by January 6th, and those people still need to be made whole. And others were victim of the Biden weaponization, but it wasn't just MAGA types that suffer from this sort of thing. And we got to fix the whole system. And I think looking at this and understanding that case, and then also understanding FedFlix is a way to start getting there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right there on the head, Mike, as to why this is important. This case that we're talking about, specifically the One Taste case, because they're not MAGA people. But when I hear you discuss the details of the activities, especially the nefarious side of it, of the prosecutors, the FBI agents, the process itself in the federal legal system, I hear the same things, and I've interviewed a lot of January 6th Americans that have been grossly damaged by the system. I hear a lot of the same type of activity, and I also put together pieces of things that I'm just abhorrent about, which is the Russia hoax. The Mockingbird media stuff that was going on there. When you can read in Yahoo News an article by a guy, and then it's used as evidence for a search warrant in the FISA court, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Activity Court, the secret court, a news article written by a guy that we know is connected to the CIA, is used as evidence to try to get a FISA warrant on a whole group of people like the Trump campaign team. That's why this report is so important to me. When I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is much bigger. It's bigger than the one taste case. It's bigger than January 6th. This is the object that needs to be focused on and taken apart piece by piece and explored very, very carefully by the American people and our elected officials.
Well, 100%. You hit a key tactic of weaponization on its head. The government, and particularly the FBI, should be discovering evidence. They shouldn't be producing evidence and creating evidence. And when you manipulate media to get something out there for the purposes of creating evidence, that's still the government creating the evidence that they're using to then prosecute you. And nowhere was this more clear. January 6th, let's go back there. What's the first thing the January 6th committee did? They hired the Hollywood producers because they knew that they didn't have the goods on President Trump and they were never going to prove it. And so they wanted to whip the country up into a frenzy and poison the already poisoned jury pools, in DC and elsewhere. That's why they did it. I mean, if you didn't have the media up in a frenzy with absolute bloodlust on a daily basis, with over-exaggerated claims for misdemeanor offenses, maybe people could have gotten fair trials, and fair trials, particularly if they were held actually amongst a jury of their peers in their hometowns. But instead, you have the propaganda machine operating a 10 out of 10, where basically you are no better than an insurrectionist yourself unless you threw the book at people pretending misdemeanor offenses were akin to domestic terrorism. It's all the same tactics. And again, this is what the work I do with you and others at Weaponization Watch, we're sick of it. Because, it's ideological neutral in this, that you just cannot have a rule of law country where people are treated fairly, we all get along, we play by the same rules, where the government at any time has this amount of power over you. It's your government. It's not theirs. That's why we call ourselves It's Your Government. And we've gotten too far away from that core principle.
Yeah, yeah, we certainly have. It's very interesting. When we come back from this break, we'll see a clip. I think it's about Ed Martin, the head of pardons for the Trump administration. But this is connected to this report that's called FedFlix by the Oversight Project. And the work that we're doing at Weaponization Watch, the Oversight Project, and other activities is critically important to you, the American citizen, because it is our government. We're supposed to have control over it. And this process is one of the ways that we're going to succeed in taking that control back. We'll be right back with Mike Howell.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
Well, Ed Martin. And look, I don't know what's going on. Ed Martin is a great warrior. He was supposed to be, when he left the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, when Judge Janine came in, when she got confirmed, Ed went over to Main Justice to head up the weaponization of government, of which he was handpicked by this guy named, let me remember, I get him. Oh, yeah, Donald J. Trump, who happens to be President of the United States, who could not think more highly of Ed back from the time of, in 15 and 16, when Phyllis Schlafly endorsed President Trump. And Ed Martin has been a warrior since then. He's one of the toughest hombres I've ever met. And now there's a Washington Post story that says today that Ed Martin is out of Main Justice. He's off of not heading the weaponization, but he's not even on the weaponization working group. I don't know how that happened. And he's now doing pardons full time at pardon. And there's this discussion he may go over to the White House in a senior position. I'd rather have him in Main Justice on weaponization. I think it's good for the country. This guy's a total warrior. If not, please, we got to keep him in the White House in a senior position. Ed Martin, the reason they're after the people like Ed Martin is because Ed Martin is a fighter. Tulsi Gabbard's a fighter. They single out and target the people that are the biggest fighters. And so we're gonna delve into this more, but it just broke today. We heard there were some rumblings over there. But Ed Martin is supposedly, according to the media, he's out of Main Justice. He's off the weaponization, not simply heading it, it's off any work in the weaponization of government committee. And he's now doing pardons, which is fantastic, but he's got a lot more capacity than that. And we've got Ed's back, and we're going to figure out or find out exactly what's going on. If he goes over to the White House in a senior position, that's fantastic.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Whistleblower Wednesday, and my guest today is Oversight Project's President, CEO, Mike Howell. And that clip there, Mike, from Bannon was when he was breaking this so-called news that was being reported by the Post that Eagle Ed Martin, the pardons man for DOJ, Donald Trump, personally appointed by Donald Trump, and the weaponization working group lead appointed personally by President Donald J. Trump. All of a sudden, 3 days ago, I catch it on the news going, they're saying he's out. Now, I just saw Ed early in January, privately, a couple of times. No indication of that. All full speed ahead on weaponization, on pardons, those kind of things. And when I saw your report, I'm like, maybe this is an operation coming out of this Mockingbird media operation that still we have the vestiges of. Is this like a false story, hoping to set the stage for something, to get the president to do something? What is going on here? Do you know?
Yeah, I think some infighting is spilling out into the media, and people inside the government are using the media to their advantage, just like they do and everything else we're speaking about. I don't think this one's as sophisticated as the FedFlix operation or anything else. I think it's score settling through leaking. Ed Martin is a dear friend, and he's also the voice and the avatar of a lot of Americans that showed up to vote for President Trump based on the hell they put Trump through and all of his allies and others to de-weaponize the government. So Ed Martin, I spoke to, he's not going anywhere. He will be okay. He's got the president's back, and the president has his back. And it would be akin, in an absurd situation where a bunch of careerists and people not committed to the agenda were to win out, which they won't. It would be akin to, firing RFK Jr. That's the message it would send to the Maha base. The same message it would send to the de-weaponization base. And so that's why it won't happen. He's already delivered so much for President Trump, whether it's on all this pardon work he's done for the January 6th electors, or the contingent, the January 6th, victims, or the contingent electors who are still going through state prosecutions, his work in D.C. He is actively, engaged with those of us who aren't ending this fight to de-weaponize our government. And so Ed Martin's not going anywhere. He can't go anywhere because such a waving of the white flag on the agenda de-weaponization would just be such a disaster. I hope that the internal forces over there can get on the same team, particularly those who want to stand in the way of de-weaponization. Ed Martin's on it, and he needs support, not detraction.
Yeah, you guys made a bunch of recommendations in your report on the FedFlix report. And this one gets at something that all of us in this space have been talking about since the president won again, and that is getting the resistors cleaned out of the bureaucracy in the executive branch to the maximum extent possible. Is this another one of those indicators that the Department of Justice has still got way too many anti-Trump policy bureaucrats that have too much power lever capability in the organization, or am I just thinking of something that's way out there?
No. I mean, that's the story across the federal government, right? There is a small percentage of Trump political appointees, then a bureaucracy that is 95% like ideologically and politically Democrat, and so this is an evergreen issue. But here, I think to isolate what's happening as it relates to Ed Martin is more of a distinction within the political appointee class. And this is one that's,
Hmm.
it happened in every administration, I think, in recent memory. There are a class of people who come in as political appointees who want to solve for the things that the president campaigned on. And for President Trump, that largely was de-weaponization, mass
Hmm.
deportations, etc. But then there's others who come in and they get consumed by the trappings of the departments and the agencies, and they don't want to do the hard work of looking backwards. They just want to move forward. They don't like investigating their own departments and agencies, and that's human nature. It's hard, right? They'd
Hmm.
rather be
Yeah.
cutting ribbons than cutting scalps, to put it in a very gruesome way, which I already regret saying. But I mean that, of course, metaphorically.
Yeah.
And this is also why I think there's issues in the case we were talking about earlier as it relates to one taste. It's hard for the Department of Justice to be like, yeah, by the way, like this seal and what it means to people, we messed up. As to the FBI, we shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have
Hmm.
worked with Netflix. That takes political, guts to do. And it's hard for the attorney general to be like, yeah, my prosecutors and my FBI agents did something bad. And that obviously could have ramifications for other cases. But I think like we're at a point in this country where we need to lead with integrity and honesty. And that's why it's
Hmm.
like required to actually solve for the problems and not just be focused on, cable news appearances and ribbon cuttings and meetings and so forth.
Yeah, Department of War is having a major challenge with that on the COVID vaccine reinstatement process. It really tends to bring out the worst in those that that are left behind that haven't been held accountable, but we're now responsible for bringing people back in. And even a Trump appointee in the Air Force at the upper echelons of the Air Force went along with one. And probably, I'm guessing, thinking, well, we got to look forward and get this done and everything. I should listen to this lawyer because I don't want to embarrass the president. Those kind of things. That's what you have to watch out for, Mike. Is to go against your own internal nature when you're in an organization like this, because this is something that if we don't address it, we as a people don't address it, the fight will continue and get worse and worse and worse. I got a question from the live audience, a member of the live audience. I want to go ahead and take. Go ahead. Shell is our hostess over there. Shell, who's got a question?
We have Matt, sir.
So my question is, Mike, I've heard it said that the founder of Netflix was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. So is it real when you look at it at this discussion in that context? It's almost as if propaganda recognized propaganda. Netflix wants to put propaganda out there. So does the government. It's a perfect match, correct?
100%. Our report opens with kind of a walkthrough of the founding, which you've identified correctly, and comments surrounding the power of propaganda, and then also like the board composition. It's not a coincidence that as soon as Obama left the White House, he went to Netflix to make CCP favored propaganda. At the same time, he was over in China, getting paid tens of thousands of dollars per photo of handshaking Chinese businessmen so they could use them to, get business in the US. Say, hey, I met that guy Obama. Like, you should trust me. That's what Obama did. He sold out this country very quickly as soon as he left. He also sold out this country while he was president, by the way. But that's Netflix. It's Susan Rice, who's gone through the revolving door of government and Netflix a couple times. It's the German owner of Politico over there. There's a lot of international left wing ideologues. The board is unanimously left wing ideologically aligned, and it's not really a financial or entertainment operation or understood by them to be that. Sure, they make a lot of money, and it's but that's not the primary purpose. The primary purpose of this is to drive global politics and then also ideological hardline and extremist views. To make things that were unthinkable 5 years ago now thinkable, whether it's the transgender craze or the attacks on just law enforcement. And I say to a lot of people now, like, imagine the Netflix movies you're going to see in a year or two about what's going down in Minneapolis. They're going to make ICE out to be the Gestapo and like the Democrats version, and then people will come to believe it. They'll think ICE are the villains and the rioters are the heroes, and they understand, they being the hardcore international left, the power of shaping narratives like that.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That's a great question. Thanks for that question, Matthew. Another incident occurred I wanted to ask you about before we go to the last break, or we are going to talk about Minneapolis in that last segment specifically. But I noticed that last Friday, I think it was Friday, Tulsi Gabbard got a snapshot taken of her in Fulton County, Georgia, at the site of the search warrant to get the 2020 ballot boxes and all the materials associated with that the FBI is executing. A photograph is snapped of her on a Friday, and Monday morning, the Wall Street Journal runs a smear piece on her that turns out to it gets all the way to paragraph 13 before it admits that there was no wrongdoing found and all that. I mean, that just smells like Operation Mockingbird once again right there. But it also highlights for me personally to remind me that this crosses party lines when we're talking about ideology. There is more to this than just the Democrats, even though there's a lot more on their side than ours. But we have to really be watchful of that, don't we?
Oh, we absolutely do, particularly when it's, donor-driven politics as opposed to voter-driven politics. You can see how motivations, could cross party lines here and end up with the same results, particularly when you're talking about something as sensitive as the integrity of our own election system, of which, we can't even really talk about openly in this country anymore because the cost of doing so is a defamation lawsuit in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, to think about that, what kind of country do we have when the election system sues the voters? It's the upside down world, and we got a lot of work to do to get back to a country that's in line not only with our founding, but more importantly, just like the principles of society that like government should serve the people. We should be able to coexist. There should be rules of the road and things of that nature. But that's why we started the Oversight Project.
Yeah, I lost my YouTube channel for the show. YouTube went back 2 years to look at every time I mentioned elections, and they canceled the channel because I was talking about elections even before there was a problem in 2020. We were doing shows about election security and those kind of things, and that's a prime example, Mike, that this continues if you don't root it out, investigate it, root it out, and apply the appropriate remedy. This Gabbard situation just highlights that it will continue no matter who's in power if we're not correct in how we address this. So we got to take another break. When we come back, we'll see a clip. If you don't think that the Democrats are going to go after us if they win again, this clip from Minnesota is going to surprise you a whole lot. We'll be right back with Mike Howell.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
We must have accountability, and we must bring justice to every fascist in the administration, and that includes Kristi Noem, that includes Stephen Miller, and that includes Tom Homan. ICE will be abolished, DHS will be dismantled, and together we will get it done.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're talking with the Oversight Project President Mike Howell today about their report on Netflix called Fedflix and the ties between the government, especially law enforcement and intelligence agencies, and the producers of material like documentaries, movies, TV series, all of those types of media are being heavily influenced, not just heavily influenced, but being used as a tool for various parts of the government. And it's not almost always not in the favor of the American people. And Mike, that was a Democrat congresswoman. I'm not even going to give her the pleasure of saying her name, but it just goes to show you why this report that you guys have put out is so important, that this information gets to Congress, gets to the president's team, gets to those with the levers of power in every department, so that they can act on your recommendations. Because if they win again, they're coming after everybody. And it's not just going to be people that are well known. It'll be people like me that are just trying to set the ship right, and win freedom and confidence in their government back for the American people. We've got to do something, and we've got to get it done right. Hopefully Congress is going to take a look at this report.
They already have. We've had a really good reception and some, a lot of media on it. If you opened your show with Senator Schmidt, who is probably one of my favorite senators. I think he gets it, and he is highly intelligent, highly motivated, and more importantly, understands the stakes of what's going on. And he tracked with a lot of oversight projects findings in his questioning at that hearing. The White House has our report. One area we'd like to see more is, out of the FBI. This is an interim report. There will be a final report. We're awaiting documentation from the FBI on some of the specifics as to the nature of the relationship that they inherited. This isn't something Director Patel started. It's something that he inherited. But now he retains responsibility to shut it down. They're busy over there, as you might imagine, but I think this is a righteous priority for them. And so we're not going to stop. We don't just issue a report and go away and congratulate ourselves. In fact, I hate reports. I don't think we need more white papers out there. But sometimes you do need, to put it all on paper so people can know what you're talking about. This aren't opinions. They're facts and collection of evidence, drafted by people who have worn badges and held guns for the government and know what they're doing and how to present evidence. And I'm going to keep on this, until something happens. And I hope at a bare minimum, we don't see Netflix allowed to grow larger and acquire more political propaganda power. But there's also power in our common citizens understanding that, they're not just turning on Netflix to zonk out and watch Is That Cake, which is a great show, by the way. I love that show. I don't know who thought of that. But then the algorithm suggests to you, like, hey, do you want to hear about this crazy left-wing concept next? Like my algorithm on Netflix, so they must be tracking me, obviously only for research purposes. We did this report, but you log into that and it's feeding you stuff about like the FBI, and it's like, how do you guys know this stuff about me? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. I'm not even going to go into what the algorithm does to my account on that, because I carry accounts on all of them for various reasons. Their purposes and the things they present to me are kind of wacky most of the time. So let's talk a little bit about, before I let you go, about the importance again, because the midterms are coming up. The president's put a priority on the midterms, and rightly so. He's not on the ballot, and he knows performance is lower traditionally at the midterm election for when keeping your majority in Congress if you have one, and he knows that that these midterms are particularly important, because if we lose the House or the Senate or both, God forbid, there will be a renewed effort of lawfare and weaponization, not just against other American people, but especially against him and his family and his team, as we saw before. But it'll be even worse, as you heard there from the Congresswoman. They're even going to go after Tom Homan, and Tom Homan just announced he was withdrawing some forces out of Minnesota this morning. I hope that they don't see that as a sign of weakness and push the throttle up even more as we go into the midterms, because that's the wrong message to send if anybody sees that.
Yeah, it's a massive boon to the recruiting of Antifa and other street agitators. They can say, like, we know how to stop Trump now. We just riot and get unfavorable CNN headlines, and then they'll change their, operational tactics. And moreover, like the core of the political promise to the American people. I think it's acknowledging and respecting a rioter's veto is a terrible thing for a country, and I was very disappointed to see that. With midterms coming up, like yes, you're right. Like traditionally, they don't go well for the incumbent party, but that's also partially because this class of pollsters, consultants, and media types we have always seem to fool politicians into saying like, that election you just won. Forget everything you just sold the American public on. Forget the mass deportations. Forget the accountability. Forget the de-weaponization. Go the other direction. No, you should dance with the girl you brought to prom. Do the things you're going to say you do, and the base will reward you. Midterm elections are about base turnout. It's not about protecting left-wing Republican, moderates in whatever, swing seats there. Yeah. It's about the base turnout.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And one of the things that I'm concerned about is that base turnout is showing a little softness in the polls, the pollsters that I keep an eye on, like Mark Mitchell at Rasmussen and Rich Barris at People's Pundit, and those kind of polls, because they're showing a little bit of softness. Now they tend to, because they're daily, a lot of them tend to wave a lot, but still there's a little softness, and it really comes down to I think from what Mark Mitchell says, we haven't seen any action on what we voted for, is the way he puts it. And that gets to your point there, Mike, is that dance with the person that brung you. We need to increase deportations, not decrease them. We need to increase investigations, if not get people arrested that need to be held accountable for these past egregious behaviors, don't we?
That's absolutely right. People, it's really not complicated. That's the whole point of a democracy. You pull the lever because you want to change something. And if you don't get that change, you're less likely to pull the lever again. And I think the premature declaration of victory on things like the FBI, the president multiple times say cash has fixed it all. And that's just not true. And I think since he's kind of changed his mind a little bit on that publicly, but show us systemic reform. Prove to me, and me and you, we know we're going to be put in front of the gauntlet of Democrat aggression and lawfare. Like it's not without risk what we're doing. And you don't want your people who adore President Trump and the movement that he created and want to see it sustained have any hesitation about going out there and advocating fiercely for it. That's a real problem for a lot of people in the arena. Frankly, I may just be too dumb to stop and just, completely unaware of the consequences that might be coming my way. But I know for many others, it hedges their behavior, and we should be on offense right now, not defense a year out from the midterms. Let's do this thing.
As my lovely bride tells me often, you're just too thick-headed. You just keep going and you don't listen. Well, let's take one more question from the audience, Mike, before we let you go. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Liz, sir.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you this afternoon? Reason for asking this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When do you start investigating the investigators, the FBI agents, the CIA agents? Because let me tell you, they ain't clean. There's a lot of them that have cheated on their wives. They do all kinds of crap. Look at Strzok. I mean, they're not innocent. Isn't it time we start investigating them?
That's a good question, Mike. I mean, it seems like there should be ample evidence of wrongdoing, not necessarily in their personal lives, as Liz pointed out, but in the activities and actions a lot of these folks took, like, say, over the January 6th thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no shortage of it. No, we don't have time to get into it. Like one case we've spoken about, go on our X feed and search the name McGonigal, a guy who was supposed to be, at the FBI leading the search for a mole hunt into the CCP who killed a bunch of our assets overseas, ended up working for the CCP. And, part of this relates to just the breakdown in the recruitment from these agencies. Like back in the day when J. Edgar Hoover, who the media will tell you is the worst guy who's ever lived, he wanted clean-cut people that were, of upstanding moral character. But as the society has lessened those standards, there's the loss of faith, which honestly I think is resurging right now, which may be the most important thing that's happening in this country. We have had, the dishonorable people enter government and use it for alternative purposes. And you'll never hear that story on FedFlix. You'll hear that the person who may be an avid consumer and participant in politics and ideology with an absolute vengeance for his opponents is the FBI agent investigating you. But you're not going to get that on FedFlix. You're going to get some diverse, woke, upstanding, superhero that's always right and you're always wrong.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, Mike, we appreciate you being with us. One last question, and that is combined with tell people where they can find you guys and how they can help. But of your list of interim recommendations, what are your top 2 or 3 that, and what can the people do to help you get them noticed by the right folks that need to notice them?
Well, I know they're busy, and I'm not trying to pick it on, but ask Director Patel to cooperate with our investigation. I think he's holding the keys to a lot of this information that could break this wide open. So if you weigh in on social media, do so politely, but he can help us out quite a bit here. We have some indications that they want to, but they got priorities and we got priorities, but time is of the essence too. The the Trump administration holds a lot of power here in their enforcement of antitrust laws. I'm no expert in that field, but if there's a will, there's a way, and I'll support it. If they could stop Netflix from growing to this monopoly power of political operation. And 3 is like, how about Congress actually investigates? I'm of that world. I was a congressional investigator for a long time. Like how about you just subpoena Netflix and get these documents, and you don't just send a letter and then go on Fox News and say, hey, everyone, I sent a letter. How great am I? But you fight it out and you apply consequences when you don't get the information. So those are 3 easy ones. If you want to see all of them, follow us on X at It's Your Gov. The report's on our website, itsyourgov.org. I'm at MHowell Tweets. We're not going anywhere.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you. God bless you. Keep up the good fight. We're here to, we got your back, and we got Ed Martin's back and everybody else's back that's doing this for the American people. And the American people are stepping up to do their part, too. We appreciate you.
Patriots need to get in control. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, sir. Well, just an update from our discussion with Representative Fred Shanks from the Mississippi State House yesterday. As we were speaking, 10 Republicans on the state Senate Education Committee were killing President Trump's school choice policy bill that had already been passed out of the Mississippi House of Representatives. Governor Tate Reeves has called them out. But you need to, if you are in Mississippi or anywhere in the United States and you believe in school choice, let the lieutenant governor and those 10 Republicans of the 15 people on that education committee hear from you how disappointed you are, and for them to, if they are getting accolades from the left-wing Marxist wing of the Democrat Party, like what we're seeing in the media here today in Mississippi, you might be working for the wrong team. Either get your act together or get voted out. We're going to primary every single one of you. Tomorrow I'll be talking with a great candidate out of Houston, Mr. Langton, who's running for county judge, their biggest county in the country. We need people that believe in America in power in that county. I'll see you then.
We have a big announcement, folks, something we've